And this was held at North Iredell High School on the brand new athletic field, so thank you for that. It did bring marching bands from across the state. We had 18 who were going to come. Unfortunately, 2 were unable to attend because of the storm, but 16 bands visited North Iredell High School and were able to participate. Lake Norman High School band director Chris Brown directed them to a superior award. That is the highest ranking you can get in marching band. And his drum majors placed 2nd overall in the competition. Under the direction of Alex Sipes at South Iredell High School, their marching band also received a superior rating, and their drum majors placed 3rd. One thing that I want to make sure we understand is that students who participate in marching band, they are able to display all of those durable skills from Portrait of a Graduate, especially the skills of communication, collaboration, and especially personal responsibility. And it's my pleasure to ask the band directors to come to the podium. So if Mr. Brantley, Mr. Brown, and Mr. Sykes will come, because I'd really like them to introduce their student leaders to you this evening. And hopefully we can get a picture together. Charlie Brantley.
Good evening, and thank y'all for doing this for us this evening and giving us this time. Unfortunately, my student leader ended up, my drum major ended up with another commitments night, so she wasn't able to make it. But one of the things that I wanted y'all to understand, just in case you didn't, is that since we're the host of the event, North Iredell does not actually compete. We only march for exhibition. So when they talked about those awards, the North Iredell students, while we did perform, they don't, because we hire and pay the judges, we don't actually compete at that. The Foothills Invitational, this is the 12th year of it. It's my 12th year of involvement in it, or 11th year of involvement in it. It brings over 1,100 students. This year we had students from Iredell, Catawba, Burke, Caldwell, Davidson, Forsyth counties with us. And one of the main things that I do is we ask when we're planning with parents ahead of time is what's the purpose of this event? And while we love getting awards and accolades and trophies, the purpose of why we have this event every year is so that we provide a place for the marching band students to perform and receive feedback in a very positive and supportive environment. Unlike a lot of sports competitions, when these kids enter the field, every band is cheering for them. They all want everyone to do as well as they possibly can. So it's a super positive environment. And when we go in to plan that event, that's the mindset we're going into, is how can we provide the most positive and encouraging environment from the students in Iredell County and the surrounding counties. I did want to take a moment to thank all of my parents, volunteers who came out and helped. It is a massive undertaking to plan this. We start in the spring, and there's an army of parents from North Iredell High School who will help make this possible. So I want to make sure to thank them. Let's see. I think that's about it for me. I'm going to turn it over to Chris Brown, is right behind me. But thank y'all again for providing our new facility. It was an awesome place to be able to have that event this year. Thank you.
Could I ask,
Yes.
as you come up, not for us necessarily, but for everybody in the room, you're who from where?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Charlie Brantley. I'm the band director at North Iredell High School.
Okay, and so I'm looking for the rest of them too.
Yes.
Thank you. Just so we know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, I'm sorry. I meant to.
No,
say
that's
that at the
okay.
beginning.
That's
Thank you.
okay.
Hi, thanks so much for having us tonight. My name is Chris Brown. I'm the band director at Lake Norman High School. I've been there since the school started, since they broke ground. Started there with Penny Hedrick, and I know that Dr. James was there with us for a little while. And these are my drum majors, John Harmon and Jamil El Mawas. And they are kind of the tip of the spear when it comes to leadership, which is a really, really important thing. with regard to marching band. If you ever have seen a marching band, Mr. Brantley and his kids that ran this competition for us do such a wonderful job, and it gives these students a remarkable outlet to be able to plan. And there are bands in Texas and around the country that have large staffs of professional, salaried, paid people, probably 15 or 20 people on staff. And at Lake Norman High School, it's me and Mike Gomez, and our art instructor Kyle Campbell, and our drum instructor Jordan McCrae, who are on, just part-time with us. And so I rely heavily on the students who plan and lead and conduct rehearsals, and they take care of all of those things, which as they move forward in life, they have that leadership experience. This is really important for them. Our marching season has started off wonderfully. If you all happen to be around this coming Friday night, we have homecoming at Lake Norman High School. We'd love for you to see the show. It's an amazing thing to watch these students do, that they start before everybody else begins back at school. And they spend their off time doing this and helping one another and making this thing come together. And it's truly spectacular to watch what high school students can accomplish. Would either of you like to say anything at all about the season? They've already told me no, and I told them I would embarrass them and ask anyway. One thing that we are doing, and another thing that my leadership is helping us to do, and the students at Lake Norman High School, this coming Sunday on the 20th, we are going to be hosting a benefit concert for victims of Hurricane Helene. So far we have students coming from Stokes County, from Appalachian State University, from Charlotte, from all over the region. Mr. Sipes has a ton of students who have signed up, and it's going to be as many musicians as we can fit on our football field, and hopefully as many audience members to come and contribute to Samaritan's Purse to help out with that in addition. So I would like to put that out there for all of you and invite you to please come check out that event with us. And thank you so much for having us tonight.
Let's make them talk. No, I just want to ask a simple question.
So
You
I
said-
would say without their instruments, they're going to be shy because they usually
I
talk
under-
with their
I understand,
instruments.
I understand completely, been there, done that. I'm just wondering, how, you said this was the drum major and
They're both drum majors.
they're both drum majors, okay. How long have you been drum majors?
This is my second year in this.
Your second year and your second year?
This is my first.
It's your first year, so you've been there, and you've been in the band for 4 years, both of you.
3 years.
Very good. Thank you very much.
I do have a comment. This board would really like to know what you need in as far as funds so that we could maybe see in the next year's budget if we could budget some things to help you.
We would be more than happy to get back to you on that.
All right.
That's much appreciated.
Now they'll say something.
Mr. Brown, for Sunday's event, could you say again the date and the time and the place, just so that everybody knows?
It will be on Sunday, October the 20th, 3 o'clock p.m. in the Lake Norman High School Stadium. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Mr. Shapcott, our principal, and the admin team, and Mr. Keener for helping us make sure that we had facilities and planning to make all that happen.
Is there an expected donation?
There's not an expected donation. We are expecting, we are hoping that we receive donations there. We have QR codes and links that we have been distributing that people can use to donate. They can donate on site, and we do have commemorative T-shirts that we're selling, as well as putting together hygiene kits for the kindness closet that we would be accepting, as well as clothes and blankets and that type of thing for the victims.
Thank you. Any other board member want to say anything? Okay.
Thank you so much for having us here this evening. I'm Alex Sipes. I am the director of bands at South Iredell High School, and these are my drum majors, Carlene Denzeski and Jessica Callahan. I want to start by thanking this board for having us again, and state that I'm a product of Iredell County. I actually joined and started my career here in 2006 at Lakeshore Elementary School, and went through Lakeshore Middle, and then went through South Iredell, and now I'm back in the place that I love. And just like the directors before me have already stated, I love getting to do what I get to do in supporting these students in the arts. This is my 5th year in the education field, and everything that I get to watch them put together and perform is invaluable, not only to me and my soul, but to their parents and their families and their friends and loved ones surrounding them in the community. So having these opportunities like Charlie had for us at North Iredell High School to perform and also celebrate the arts in the surrounding areas it's perfect. It's a great place to be, and I wouldn't rather spend a October Saturday doing anything else.
Are they going to talk?
If they would like to, you can ask them the same questions.
How long have you been the band major or the major?
First year.
First year? First year too? Okay. Now, let me ask a question that's not competitive and there's no undercurrent whatsoever. Just have a comment to make after I get the answer. How many people are in your band?
Currently 105.
105. How many are in your band? Yeah. 57 and so that's 250 students in the county that are, or roughly, that are involved in marching bands, which, like you've said before, are really a conglomeration of all the parts and pieces that we're trying to present in the school system. So you're to be commended because we have that many people working in such great organizations. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. The cool thing is you can continue this at the next level, and I hope they realize, and I hope you guys have let them know, I assume you have, you can do marching band at college. And Lenore Ryan has a marching band, not that I'm plugging my place of employment.
Who was that? Where's that?
That's over in Hickory. So if you want to stay local, they have a really good marching band, actually. But the cool thing is you can continue on, and you can continue this passion that you have that you're developing. Marching band is fun. There's athletics in marching band. If you dress up in that wool uniform and you get out and march, as y'all know, it's hot as something else. And so, I just love that you're doing it. And you got to, in that time, the stress of all the heat and the stress of the marching, you have to play your instrument. And that's some focus, and those are things, and going through that really helps you solve problems and do things later on in life and other things. And I'm just thankful for what you guys have done. You can't have marching band without leadership, and I want to thank you for that. But at the same time, you can't have leadership. You don't have those to lead. So I'm grateful for the students there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us get a picture, please. Mr. Woody.
Good evening, Chairman Howell, members of the board, Dr. James. Thank you again for the opportunity to come before you tonight to share some exciting accomplishments of our ag students from across the district. We recently had the Iredell County Fair, and that will make up a lot of our awards tonight, but we have a couple others as well. So I'd like to first start by calling up Mr. Bill Walker, ag teacher from North Iredell High School, to call up his student winners.
Thank you, Mr. Woody. Good evening, members of the board. It is always a pleasure to come before you to brag about the wonderful things that are happening at North Iredell High School. Before we jump into the dairy judging recognition, I want to brag just a little bit about our collaboration with Lake Norman FFA. Both of the teachers there are former students of mine, so they hold a special place in my heart, and the wonderful things that they're doing there continuously astounds me. But I want to brag just a little bit about the selflessness of our agriculture students and our FFA members. They saw a need when Hurricane Helene hit the western part of the United States, And as of right now, we, between Lake Norman and North Iredell, we have sent 5 tractor-trailer loads of round bales to that part of the world, 5 tractor-trailer loads of square bales to that part of the world, numerous tons of feed, numerous T-posts, numerous fencing supplies, and we have that much more ready to go as soon as they figure out where it can go. So I'm very proud of these young people. We have had folks as far east as Wilmington, North Carolina, and as far west as Arkansas reach out wanting to help, and it's because they see the value in what these young people are doing. And I promise you that the future of agriculture is bright with the leaders that are in these blue jackets right now. So without further ado, will Wyatt Klein, Austin Ladd, Hunter Sipe, and Jacob Sipe please come forward? These 4 young men represented our FFA chapter at the Iredell County Fair in the dairy judging contest. We ended up placing 3rd, so not quite as high as we wanted to go, but we still did very well. Very proud of these young men. And I'd like for Wyatt to take just a few minutes and explain to you what the dairy judging contest is and why it's important.
Thank y'all for y'all's time this evening. My name is Wyatt Klein from the North Iredell FFA chapter. The dairy judging contest is pretty similar to just any livestock judging contest you'll go to. You have 4 animals, number 1, 2, 3, 4, and you would place them 2, 1, 3, 4, 3, whatever order you desire, based off based off many things. The most important thing with dairy judging is obviously like the mammary system, which is where your milk comes from. Pretty important in a dairy cow. So you look at the udders, the teat size, the teat placement, how straight they are, how much milk they can hold. Then after that, you go to their body. Their frame size shows you how much milk they can produce, and also the size of the babies they can have. Because the bigger the cow usually means the more milk they can produce. And then the last thing would be just general appearance. Obviously with a female cow, you want her to look more feminine because it's female. So that's just one of the smaller things. But I'd say the biggest way this applies to like myself, I work on a dairy farm, and we actually use this when we go look at buying new cows. We look at the udder, their legs, their back, everything lets you know that's going to be a good cow for your operation, and it's going to make you money in the long run. We just went up to Waynesville, North Carolina. It's in the western part of the state. Bought some cows from a guy's farm flooded, lost everything. He had to get rid of them, so we went up there and got them. And that was one of the big things we ended up doing, was evaluating all those cows and kind of helped us set a price of this guy. I mean, obviously we gave him a little more because of what he was going through, but it just kind of helped you set a price and evaluate these cows for just how good of a cow they were and how much you wanted to pay for them. Any questions?
Thank you for your continued support of our agriculture program. It is an honor and a privilege to be an agriculture teacher, and it is a joy to go to work and work with these young people every day. So thank you again.
Before you leave, I have one question. Just as a matter of information.
Yes, sir.
At this time, since they seem to be sometimes forgotten, how many dairy farms are there in Iredell County at this time?
We are still the #1 dairy county in the state of North Carolina,
Right.
but it has decreased drastically in the last 3 to 4 years. I don't know exactly how many there are off the top of my head, but there's under 50.
Under 50.
Under 50.
Okay, thank you.
I believe you are correct on that. So, we are an agricultural powerhouse in the state, but we are slowly losing that foothold with the development, as y'all know, with trying to plan for new schools and all that. But, you can only grow crops on land that doesn't have houses on it. So here we are. But, thank you, Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. And students, great job. Next, I'd like to call up Courtney Elledge, which is a new ag teacher for us at Lake Norman High School, to call up their student winners from Lake Norman High School. Ms. Elledge?
As Mr. Woody said, I am one of the new teachers at Lake Norman High School. I'm one of the 2 agriculture teachers that we have there. Our students competed in the same dairy evaluation CDE competition that Wyatt explained for us. We had a 2nd place high individual and a 3rd place high individual, as well as a 2nd place team overall. Our 2nd place high individual is Taylor Mick, and our 3rd place high individual is Carson Barnhart. Our 2nd place team overall is Carson Barnhart, Gianna DeMarco, Taylor Mick, and Caitlin Keener. So if you all will come receive your certificates so we can get a picture. Taylor. We also competed in the Iredell County Fair Booth Contest. Our officer team, as well as some of our FFA members, worked together to come up with a fair booth to compete against the other high school FFAs in the county. We placed 2nd at our fair booth as well, with our students who helped with that are here tonight being Carson Barnhart, Gianna DeMarco, and Madison Pennington. And before I call them up here for their recognition for that, I just want to brag on my students one more time. We also placed 3rd in the state for the North Carolina Farm Bureau Safety Video Contest. This is a contest, like I said, that is open to everyone in the state. Students are required to make a 30-second to 45-second TikTok-type video about farm safety and ag safety to kind of try to appeal to the younger generation and bring awareness to agriculture in that way. So my students that are here tonight who are responsible for that video are Holden Silver McLeod, Branson Alexander, Samantha Anderson, and Kyle Hazelwood.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis, and congratulations again, students. At this time, I would like to call up now Jacob Gant, ag teacher at South Iredell High School, to call up their school winners from the fair as well. Mr. Gant?
Good evening. My name is Jacob Gant. I'm a sixth-year ag teacher at South Iredell High School. The South Iredell FFA chapter took home first place in the Agricultural Education Fair Booth Contest for the third year in a row. This contest is designed to educate the public on county and state agricultural topics while maintaining a provided theme. The following students should be recognized for their hard work: Kimber Volsky, Marley Ralston, Mary Ryan Douglas, Cooper Christie, Carson Ball, and Emma Walters. Also, several students were top place finishers in the showmanship division of the dairy show: Marley Ralston, Caroline Thompson, Hadley Cheek, Emily Moose, Madison Riley, and Callie Waugh. Lastly, Emma Stuckey, Amaya Porter, and Zachary Turner did an excellent job preparing several horticultural entries, including the first place Big Fern. And during tonight's moment of silence, I think we can all say we were thinking about the same thing. I know that I was thinking about our neighbors in Western North Carolina. South Iredell alumni, students, and staff raised over $25,000 worth of supplies and materials to be sent to Charles D. Owen High School, Black Mountain Children's Home, as well as the East Black Mountain Free Will Baptist Church to support the civilians of Swannanoa Valley. And on a lighter note, we had a third and fourth place finisher in the truck and tractor driving CDEs this past week. Can we get a round of applause? Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I make-
Congratulations.
Can I make a comment on agriculture,
Absolutely.
please? I realize that we have great students in our agriculture programs, but our teachers has got to be amazing. They really do, and I appreciate them.
Okay, the school spotlight tonight, Harmony. So I don't know who's going to do the talking, so whoever. Okay, Nick. Yes.
Good evening. We appreciate the opportunity to come and discuss our school. My name is Nick Allen. I'm the principal at Harmony Elementary, and this is?
Cheryl Hathcock. I'm the instructional facilitator.
So we're going to go over all the great things about Harmony that make our school something special. So here's the path we're going to travel tonight. Talk about these 6 different facets of our school. We'll start with our mission and vision. I'm not going to read that. You can all see it up there. We rewrote those statements this year to reflect our desire to support all students, to push the fact that we're working with every single kid who walks through our front door. And we also wanted to recognize that our goal is to exceed expected growth for our students, and we're going to touch on that a little bit later.
So we're excited about our student population. We're growing, and that's a lot, says a lot about what we're doing. Our total enrollment right now is 350. We have gained 20 students since the beginning of the school year. We're currently looking for a kindergarten teacher if anybody's knows somebody. So our ethnicity, we have 62% white, 27% Hispanic, 9% black, 9% multi. We're also 70% free and reduced lunch. So we have a really great population of students, and we have a lot of need.
One of the things we wanted to talk about this evening was our discipline data. I'm a former social studies teacher, so it's always difficult to compare when you've got different size schools in the district. So we did have the lowest total number of office referrals last year, but also if you break that down to per student, we're the lowest in the district. And what we do in this aspect, and we're on the same pace for this year as well, is that we promote a relationship-based approach, but not just, well, I'm going to have relationships with our students, but we try to find students who might be in challenging situations, who might have had a previous history of challenging situations, and engage them up front. We don't wait for things to come to us. We try to get to them to see if we can go ahead and implement success with them. We've had great success doing so. Our teachers have bought in to that, to say, this child could use something. And then we work with our leadership team to try to figure out how we can make a connection with that student and get them on the path to focusing on learning. So one of the things that we're most proud of at our school is what we call a culture of confidence. And we really feel like this is something that's helped us be successful past year. So when I became principal at Harmony, this is my second year, so last year being my first year there, I met with every single employee over the course of the summer to get to know all of them. And what I found was a group of educators who had an exceptional mastery of curriculum, of lessons, of the day-to-day operations of a school. But it did not seem to me that their confidence matched their ability. One of the things we really tried to promote was to let our teachers know how much we believed in them and what we did to support them, and how that confidence, once they felt that they were supported and believed in themselves, was then going to spill over and allow them to focus their energy on the students, on the rigor, on the relationships with their students, instead of worrying about their job as educators. So this piece became really, we termed it a culture of confidence. It really came about when one of our teachers said, I think the biggest difference this year was I felt confident every day. And that was where that term came from.
When I'm in classrooms coaching, that's my goal. It's my goal to make them feel confident in themselves, confident in their students. And there's a lot of research about teacher efficacy, and that's just talking about, are they confident in their abilities? And I can proudly say our teachers are.
And so from that culture of confidence, this was the result for last year. Harmony Elementary was the only elementary school to exceed expected growth for the last school year. Our growth index, was a 3.01. That was significant. That formula is a state secret, as best anybody can tell. You're always looking for it, but that placed us, well ahead of the minimum to get there. Overall, we finished first in science, second in math, and first in reading growth amongst elementary schools. And that's another point of pride for us, that we're not just one subject. Across the board, our students saw growth. We also moved our report card score up 4 points, which is a pretty solid bump in a single year. So we're only 4 points away from attaining a B grade. Harmony has held this grade in the past, and we're looking to get back to B status for this year.
So just a little bit about oh, Lord. Okay, so here's a little bit about EOGs. We actually set our post-pandemic highs in 5 out of 7 EOGs and increased our overall proficiency by 4 points, which is exactly what we just discussed. We're really proud of our students. We're really good about talking about the student and not making excuses to talk about learning loss. We're past that, and we're very proud to be there.
Another area that we focused on this year, the school in the past had focused a lot on science and math, and it left a really big opportunity for reading growth. I'm married to a kindergarten teacher who teaches in ISS. My wife used a program in her classroom called Read for Beads. And I was like, how do I get our students to develop a love of reading? We all know that right now they love cell phones. and getting people to get back in front of a book is not easy to do. But this is a pretty simple program that, I took her idea and tried to expand it to, an entire school level. So for our students, each grade level sets up their own parameters, but when they read, it can be at home or it can be at school, they're going to earn a bead. And while that might seem simple, we don't mean just plain simple beads. We've got everything you can think of from, we've got ag beads, we've got, music beads, we've got sports, we've got every one on there. But those kids then put these on necklaces that they wear at the school. So they can show off their pride in what they do and how many books they've read. For our kinders, it might be mastering a letter or a sound so that every student can still participate in that. But this is putting us on, the path to getting literacy goals, and this year the program's in its second year. So we've seen that expand, and kids, already have those. They're asking when I can get this bead. We've added a layer this year where you can earn special beads for, excelling at reading. And it also gives us an opportunity. We recognize Readers of the Month for every classroom, and that might be, maybe it was the person who read the most books, maybe it was the person who read their first book, for the year. So it gives us a chance to recognize different students and show that out to our entire school.
So looking at our iReady growth, we've had an enormous amount of growth in reading and math. Also, we are very proud of our kindergarten students. We had 82% of students on or above grade level at the end of the year, and we came in with 3% on or above grade level. It's really great growth, and we're also seeing that roll over into first grade.
So these are some photo examples. This is what looks like our Reader of the Month here on the left. One of the things I love about the program, the center is an example. Each teacher is able to display their beads and see how they want to do it. So it's a school-wide program with an individual twist so that each teacher gets to keep the theme of their classroom. We get a student on the right showing that. On there, they got beads. They can put somebody's name on there. He wanted to put his grandfather's name on there, talking about reading for him. So it allows students to express themselves individually as well.
Okay, so we have STEM to support our science classes. It's on our enhancement rotation. We also include literacy, so you can see in the second picture how we include literacy in STEM. Along with our kindergartners, their hands are in a bag of dirt there. They're getting dirty and they're gardening. They love that. Students are allowed to be creative in STEM. They're allowed to problem solve, and a lot of times our kids are talked to, but they're not allowed to be creative and come up with solutions on their own, and this is a great space for them to be able to do that.
Another area that we looked at this year, we didn't want to just have 1 year of exceeding growth. We at the end of the year, we were already talking about what we could do to continue the success. We overhauled our intervention program this year, and one of the things that's challenging for elementary schools is how do you get kids into interventions while you're waiting on the data from this year. But we actually took data from last year and were able to place students and start interventions. So these students that may have a deficit in reading or math were able to receive specialized assistance in the first month of school this year. So a lot of schools, you're not starting that until after the first quarter, and our kids are already getting ahead on that. And we looked at a way, one of the challenges last year when we were conducting this process is our own grade level or above grade level students were often in situations where they were doing individualized work that wasn't necessarily totally beneficial for them. So we created a program that all students this year are able to focus on interventions or core instruction. So no one's left out during this point. And we're seeing some real positive returns already. We've got students that have closed some gaps. So we're confident that this is going to support our program going forward.
Going back to the last slide, we just wanted to talk a little bit about MTSS right here, and that's our multi-tiered supports for student supports. And that's students who might need be a little bit behind, need some intervention. We've created a climate in our school that it's just like it's just like a thing. If you need intervention, everybody needs intervention. So we all kind of go, and the kids are happy to be in their small groups. But I just wanted to say that this is one of the pieces that really excelled our EVOS growth. We follow the processes. It doesn't matter if they're showing gaps in a specific area. We're giving them a diagnostic so that we can give them an intervention. And our intervention groups are fluid, so kids could be in there for months, kids could be in there for a couple weeks. They can close gaps and move forward. Our goal is to keep kids in class as much as possible, but we're very proud of how we identify kids who need a little extra intervention and how we can give them that.
So the Harmony community is very important, and the school, is beloved by the community. Some of the ways we get them involved, first, Harmony Night Out. This is an annual event where essentially our school hosts the community. This partnership with the Sheriff's Department, local churches, local community organizations. It's free for anyone in the Harmony community, so the turnout is excellent, but it gets a lot of families out onto the school campus that don't necessarily come for conferences or academic events. It still gives us a chance to engage and interact with those families.
We see a lot of our parents at curriculum nights. Our most successful curriculum night was our science curriculum night. Last year we got a Duke Power Energy grant, and they sent kits with all these science experiments, and our kids could walk around with their families and talk about our science, and they really had a great time. We had a huge attendance. We also, this year, had our first annual Grandparents' Day. You're going to see some pictures of that in just a minute. We had 300 family members. We try to figure out how to get everybody through the lunch line and in the cafeteria, have lunch with their families, but it was a really great day. So these are just some pictures from various curriculum nights. And this is Grandparents' Day. Isn't that second picture, and aren't those adorable, that third one?
So we've also got a lot of upgrades going on in our school. Thanks to the board, we were able to get back into our gym on September 30th. The gym project was completed. It looks fabulous. The kids were so excited. The first class that was in there was like, "Did you bring cameras?" They wanted to claim ownership that they were the first kids to get to use the gym. And our next project is getting ready to be underway.
And we did bring cameras. So there's Miss Edmonds' class. They were the first one in for PE when our gym got opened. We also had renovations with our blacktop. I'm not sure if that's like an original part of Harmony, but it's probably not. But it was really breaking down. It'd been there for a long time. So we repainted the lines and we sealed it. And also we got a Gaga pit, and our kids are crazy for Gaga now.
One of our focal points this year, kind of continuing our agricultural theme from earlier, we have a courtyard inside of our Harmony School building that's completely enclosed on all four sides. It's a wonderful space, but one of the issues we have with it is it's really just become a thoroughfare. It's a shortcut across the campus, and the space has become dead. So what you're looking at are some pictures from the Ag Extension here in Iredell County that served as our inspiration for what we would like to create in terms of having the best elementary learning outdoor area that we could put together. So this year, we're going to start with attempting to build an outdoor classroom similar to what you see on the left, kind of bench seating so that kids can use that space out there. We've also got the second picture is a sensory garden for our younger students, our K-1-2 students, the different textures with plants that we'd like to have put in place there. On the far right, we actually have had 2 teachers that have been going through trainings via 4-H programs in the state on how to help us set up this garden. And so this last one that they went to, those blueprints are actually allowing us, it'll be our first section that we plant. It's about 21 feet of a 3-season blooming garden that, when for some of our teachers, students, families, it's going to give them an opportunity to see that our kids can identify different plants, how that'll work, how we keep it in bloom. We love those things. Those are Airbnbs. We have bee homes there to try to keep up with pollination there. That was the last class we sent our teachers to. And as we kind of wind down, here's some of the other great things that we do. I was an assistant principal at Celeste Hinkle, where they put on clubs during the school day. And this is something that I really felt passionate about bringing to Harmony. With our student population, a whole lot of our children do not have the opportunity after school to experience some of the activities that you find for some other students. So we bring clubs into our building twice a month on Friday afternoon for 45 minutes. Our third, fourth, and fifth graders have an opportunity to sign up for a club. That's something that they find interesting, and these clubs are put on by our employees. So these examples, we have a gardening club that fits really well with what we're doing. So these students are going to have a hand in helping us recreate that courtyard. And they had some fabulous ideas last year that we're incorporating for this year. Or we give a STEM club, with Legos for our students to be able to compete and build things and then have those voted on by the faculty. We also, some more examples, we have students that read to our K-1-2 students. Various board games. We had a drama club last year. Robotics. We put on a full slate of things that our students get a chance to experience. And basically for us, we turn that into a 90-minute session a month that we're able to get these kids into something that they can produce at the end of the year. And that's where we invite our parents out. So on that last day, all the parents come and say, "What did you do in clubs all year?" Here it is. You get to be a part of that experience. So it's a good way for parents to connect and see if their kids are outside of reading, math, science. Here's what I planted this year. Here's how I understood how to learn to do this. Here's my championship Lego build from this year.
Just real quick, we couldn't not throw in that we won the champion award for robotics last year. Our students were really proud of that. And then you can go on. And then this is our kids at our fun run fundraiser. We did a color run, and we had fun. The kids had fun getting powder all over them, and we had fun putting it on them too.
The color run was actually the first post-pandemic event that the entire school had participated in. So it was nice to get all the students out there. Plenty of parents enjoyed very much throwing color powder, maybe a little bit more on their own kids than others, but it was a good time for everybody.
Here's just some more examples of what we do. I will say that our concert, the second picture there, that is like standing room only. Parents come, kids come, they're all so excited, and our music teacher does a phenomenal job. We also do have a student in ESL and support Red Ribbon Week. And Miss Land's class was last year's Most Pink class for Pink Out Day, and Miss Johnson had the class this year.
Each month, we offer all of our teachers an opportunity to nominate 2 students for a particular trait, a trait of character that allows kids that might not necessarily get academic recognition to still see and feel what it's like to be recognized in front of their peers for having something specific. We treat them to a little breakfast. At this picture, before we take this picture, we let them define what that trait is each month. So if this past month it was respect, so students could offer their thoughts on what it means to be respectful. I tell them each when they go home, this is something we push them. When you walk in the door, show this to your family and have them read you the comment that your teacher wrote about you today. Because a lot of our kids, they want to know so badly what their teacher said about them. And you can see them like, my teacher said I was this. And that gives us a chance. Their picture goes on the wall there. You see kind of on the picture on the right, it's empty. The picture on the left shows you what it looks like for the full year when we have our students there. We ask that all of our teachers attempt, if at all possible, to find something to nominate every child for, so that each child in our building gets recognized at some point in the year for possession of a trait that's exemplary in front of their peers. And that's bringing us to the end. We say a lot of people don't know what we do at Harmony. You don't have to take 77 all the way to Virginia. You can turn right there at 54 and go 10 minutes, and we're right there on the left. And while we're a little bit farther up there, we are extremely proud in what our staff and students are able to accomplish. They don't let it stand in their way. That that we might be, our resources aren't as great in some areas, but we're frugal in that. Like Read for Beads cost $1.86 per student last year to put a program on for every single kid to participate. But our teachers are fabulous. A few of them are sitting back here. Their instruction is rigorous. Their expectations are high. They are demanding, but we also have a tremendous amount of fun and a positive atmosphere at our school. And that breeds that confidence that keeps everybody knowing what we can accomplish. Thank y'all very much.
So where are we on the renovation project?
So we are, in terms of the hallway that's getting ready to be added on there.
Yes.
We are right now waiting. I think Scott said we're waiting on the last set of plans that we need to put in place. I would expect a meeting within the next few weeks to launch that and get it moving.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Well, it's been a while, but we know what's coming with it. I think the gym helped that everybody could see, oh, well, this is what we're going to see. We've had some teachers that we moved classrooms last year thinking it might have been then, but they've been troopers about it and are, they're like, look, if it gets us a hallway that we need and gets this space enclosed, we're ready.
And get you bigger bathrooms.
That's right. Yes, that'd be great.
Thank you so much.
Could we have
Kelly.
those teachers stand, identify themselves and what area they cover?
Yes. Hey. My name is Allison Land, and this is my 11th year up at that fabulous school. That this presentation brought tears to my eyes. It just resonates with my soul how fabulous that place is, really. But I teach kindergarten, and if anybody in this building would like to come be a reader, you are more than welcome. Y'all over there too. You are more than welcome to come and read to our fabulous students and be a part of our day.
We have a sign on the door that says no solicitation. That's perfectly okay.
We have Taylor Ladd. She's in the back.
I'm a third grade teacher. This is my 10th year at Harmony, and I actually went through school at Harmony, so it's nice to be home and see all kids that our students are capable of.
And I'm Tracy Gallion, and this is my second year at Harmony, and I'm the STEM ag.
So additional comments?
Sir?
It seems like y'all got everything together, doing a fantastic job. I hope you share information with other schools of how you do this. And, there's certain things that catches our attention. For me, it's the agriculture department and coaching. And I heard Ms. Hathcock talk about coaching the teachers, and the proof is in the pudding. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. All right. Dr. James gave us a presentation, a year or so ago about free and reduced lunch and how it correlates to on the report card. Having a C and previously being a B was 70% free and reduced lunch? I think that's correct. That's pretty amazing. That's getting outside of 2 sigma from a statistical point of view. I mean, that's at the tail ends of that statistical curve, and to be able to be that's pretty amazing. I just want to congratulate you for it. And your teachers, because you can't do it without them. And the community up there.
Mr. Kubinick.
Mr. Allen, so what jumped out with me were 3 things. The character recognitions that I thought was great, and older kids reading to the younger. I think that's a mentoring program in and of itself, right?
Absolutely.
But the number one thing that jumped out to me, and please expound on this, is your parental engagement. And that is such a key to student achievement, is having parental engagement, parents involved, grandparents involved. So what magic dust do you have in your toolbox that has really made that work?
Well, and when I came to Harmony, I'm new there. Cheryl didn't mention it, but her children were 4th generation Harmony students, so her family's been there a long time. So she was able to educate me on this is the way that people are involved in Harmony. Again, our community, they love that school. love that school. It is a part of the fabric of the community there. But we don't necessarily have a community that can donate, things that maybe other schools might be able to get. What we do is look to find ways to meet parents, where they are. When we did that STEM night, it wasn't just, come see science curriculum. We've got 15 stations with a science experiment that you can do with your kid right here. Come be a part of what they're doing. Grandparents' Day, when we first were talking about that, it was, let's try to go one layer deep. Maybe I can't get your mom or dad to come in, but I bet I can get grandma to come in and eat lunch. We had some people drive, multiple hours to come and eat lunch with their kids. They said, I'd never have a chance to do this if it's not a holiday. Just for us, just getting that exposure, being involved, out in the community, supporting our kids' sports teams, whatever it is that they do. For me, I try, on those musical concerts, and I'm glad Ms. Hathcock said that, because I had no clue that a musical concert could look like that at an elementary level. I was blown away by just what a wonderful job. But being able to see everybody in there in that standing room only and going and talking to people, this is what we're doing. This is what we need when they ask. And we've gotten a ton of community support. It's looking really good for some donations for our efforts to build that courtyard. We've had people there. So I think when their students come home and talk about that they had a great day at school, and it can be something as simple, I open car doors every afternoon and put kids in there, and I always ask in front of their parent, how was your day today? And when their kid says, I had a great day, or what was your favorite part about your day today? We want them to know that their child is coming to us and having an extraordinary experience. And I think that, when you feel that about your kid, you find that time, to get involved, or donate, or find a different thing, to do. So it's just making sure that every rock gets, overturned and looked under, and that we get every way we can. The goal was always to get 100% of our parents into the building during the year. That was a goal last year. We did well. We improved on what had been in the past, but we didn't get to 100, so we're back at it this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your staff for coming tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Mr. Steele is not here, right? Ms. Becker. Ma'am?
All right.
Oh, Adam's here. Adam's here.
Yes. Can you all hear me?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you all for allowing me to present the 24-25 budget. So what we have here is the budget you're going to look at. The budget we're going to ultimately, what you are approving is the budget resolution that you see before you. We don't approve a line item budget, but I will gladly explain what is in the budget, the highlights. I have provided the budget resolution, as well as a summary details of the local Fund 2 budget and your other special revenue fund, which is Fund 8, which is the money that does not go to charter schools. The summary information is the reason I'm presenting that and giving that to y'all is so that we're transparent, not only to you, but to the public. If you'll remember, you originally approved a local budget request to the county asking for a 14.81% increase. Obviously, the county did not give us a 14.81% increase. We knew that going in. Dr. James and I talked to them, and ultimately they came back with a 2.7% increase. So where we're at with the budget this year, with ESSER ending we had to move some expenses that were needed back to local and other funding sources. So we started with over $5 million anticipated to be budgeted out of fund balance when we went into the process. Right now, with the budget that I'm presenting tonight, we're budgeting 2.4 million locally. Last year, we budgeted 1.9 million, and I'm glad to say that once the audit is presented, we will have only used just under 600,000 out of fund balance. So we were able to maximize some funds and use other sources and move things around so that we wouldn't have to use as much fund balance. The increased pressure on fund balance in the current year is a result of ESSER ending. Also inflationary increases with salaries, benefits, maintenance supply cost, utilities continue to go up. Another factor currently, and Dr. James can touch base on this, is the fact that our ADM has increased. Currently, the state is funding us at 20,530 students. And our 40-day numbers, which came today, are at 20,849. So we are up 319 students.
Yes, not funded.
We
currently.
should receive additional 728,000 from the county. 40 ADM increase, we'll have to go back to them. And then we're waiting on word from the state. And I'll let Dr. James talk about that at the end. The state in the past has given us ADM if we had an ADM increase, but currently we do not know where they stand. So, but we should, if we receive money from the state, receive additional money for teachers, TAs, supplies, transportation, etc. So this would, this increase, I would bring a budget amendment back to you all at that time with any new money. Also, if the county, when the county gives us new money for our ADM increase, I would do that as well. Also, for transparency, the county has put $1.2 million in a reserve because they knew we would we were anticipating a shortfall. But what we have to do is show them if we need that money, that we have not added positions and added things, and we'd have to go back to them, myself and Dr. James. But that money's there, but we don't want to have to tap into it if we don't have to. We're monitoring expenses on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to reduce our use of fund balance. The next thing I just want to touch on in the budget here, your total budget on that budget resolution in the current year is $267 million. Significant increases in the current year budget are a 3% salary increase. The retirement rate actually increased from 25.2% to 24.04%. And insurance increased in the current year from $7,557 per person to $8,095. Also to note, in the budget, we started this a few years ago, did implement a yearly step increase for our classified staff, which was very much appreciated, which is an average of a 1.2% additional on top of the 3%. So that's good for your classified staff. Other significant increases that came from ESSER ending was the movement of 24 nurses back to local. We're also continuing to use custodial contracted employees to try to reduce cost. And then the continuation of contracted subs. We have not continued the planning period stipend or the $100 a month attendance supplement for classroom teachers that require a sub. And you may ask why. We did not see a decrease in sub cost. We actually saw an increase, even with the $100. So looking at the budget resolution, if you'll start at the top on the budget resolution, the first line you'll see is the state. Your total state budget is $147 million. No real big changes from last year in the state budget, except for salary increases, benefit increases. The state did not, when they went back in, they did not really pass a budget. They just passed on whatever was previously done in the 2-year biennium. So, state allots us in pots of money. We get money for teachers, school building administrators, instructional support, EC, ESL, English language learners at risk, and we have to spend that money within those pots of money. We can't really move in there, and everything has to fall within the parameters. The state did keep in the state supplement that we will pay out in May. I do anticipate that being higher than $885, which we paid last year. That has gradually went up over the last few years. Moving down that budget resolution, your next and ultimately your really the only thing we really control as a whole is your current or local budget expense, which totals $59 million. And I did mention that we within that we're budgeting $2.5 million out of fund balance right now. I did provide you a summary detail of the local budget for your information to help you understand, and I explained some of those increases, decreases. So that will help you there. Moving on to the next thing, federal budgets total $9.27 million this year. That is down, if you compare to last year, from $26.2 million in the prior year. And you may ask why, and that is because of ESSER. And I'm glad to say that we have expended all of our ESSER dollars as of September 30th. But most of all, I got to stop here, and I need to thank Maggie, who is sitting there, and she probably don't want me to thank her, but I need to thank Maggie and Michelle Cassidy and John Rubick. He'll understand as well. With the federal budgets this year, we have had to go in and budget by grant year. It's a whole new thing. We have to add a grant year on the end, and that has been a tremendous amount of work. And for Maggie and Michelle and working with John to get these done so that I was able to present the budget in early October here, I need to thank them and just thank them for their work because I could not do this job without my staff. And so I do appreciate Maggie and Michelle and John helping with that. On the capital budget side, we have that budget is $23.7 million. Your school nutrition budget in the current year is $12.9 million. Our scholarship fund, where we house scholarships that folks have given us, is $35,000. Your prime time after school program and before school is $1.7 million. Primetime no longer has the grant that they received from the state. But if you'll remember, the board did approve rate increases last year that will be implemented over 5 years to help Primetime offset some of the increases in salaries and benefits and other costs. Your last budget is your other special revenue, which is $13 million. I did provide a summary and explanations for the board for the use of fund balance in Fund 8. And just so you'll remember this money is money that we do not have to pay a per pupil share to charter schools. This is where you house a lot of your grants, Gear Up, TSL, ROTC, tuition, things like that. Also, just to note, our total charter school students currently that we have to pay a per pupil share out of local, the total charter school students is roughly 3,246. I did increase that number based on our percentage increase that we've received, that we've seen in our total student enrollment. That can fluctuate from time to time. It's hard to budget for charter school students, but that you're looking at over $7 million that we pay out to charter school students, and that ADM is included in what we give to the county during the budget process. So we do get that money, but then we have to turn around and pay it out. But with that, that's your budget. Like I said, it is a $267 million budget in the current year. And with that, I'll be glad to take any questions you may have. And Maggie can help facilitate as well.
Board members, any questions? Yes, sir.
Brian Sloan, District 1. Mr. Steele, this budget, I done a little calculation. It's got 4 more zeros on it than my personal budget. So this is a little bit above my head. So I want to get personal and ask you a question, and I want to call you by your first name, and I want you to answer honestly. Adam, are we frugal with our money?
I can answer that. This district has done a very good job with the resources we are given. We are able to provide a 5% supplement for our classified staff. I think that's huge. Many districts around us do not give classified staff a supplement, if not a very small supplement. I do think, if you look at other districts, that we do a good job of, taking the resources we get. We give our schools, which is unheard of. I've talked to Dr. James. I've told executive cabinet, it's nothing I've not said. We give them $80 per pupil for classroom supplies that they're able to use. The state allots us at $35 per pupil. This district has done a good job with that. Then in addition to that, we also give teachers $200 Amazon spend that the board put in a few years ago. So is there things we can do better? There's always things we can do better. As your CFO, I'm always going to tell you there's things we can do better. I'm not going to sit here and not say, and we know we're going to have to keep pulling back to be more frugal. But right now, I mean, we do a good job with the money we got.
With my follow-up question will be, and you might want to defer to the superintendent, is our children hurting because of lack of money?
Absolutely. You just read today across the nation that during the pandemic, our students got a year to almost 2 years behind. So the ESSERS money was designed to put in best practice tutoring programs. We actually went to several districts and looked at what was going on there, brought it back here, put it into effect, saw a significant closing of the achievement gap. Now the ESSER money is gone. So what does that mean? Those programs are gone. We have no money to fund them. So in education, we are constantly proving what works, and then it doesn't get funded. So at the end of the day, yes, we'll be, depending on what the Senate and legislature is going to do, we'll be back again either 49th or 50th in the nation when it comes to funding public education. And we're darn proud of that as a state because we keep putting the same people back in office. So it takes money. We've cut central. So so I'll ask Adam could you afford to lose 5 people out of your department, Adam?
I could not.
Okay, so our central office has cut 15 positions, and I keep getting asked that question, so we have a capacity study that I'll be presenting to the board from other districts that are the same size, and you'll be amazed at what we do with your dollar. But what I get aggravated at is nobody else is asking as taxpayers. So everybody else who gets tax dollars cutting? No. We cut positions and we get asked, what else can you do? Then I pull the paper up and I see where we're adding 40 or 50 positions. I'm a taxpayer also. So it looks like every time we cut, somebody else adds. So at some point, are we going to educate our kids or not? And, you know, as I said, I'll take a shot for charter schools included. Do we really want our kids educated by the lowest paid people in our community, in our state? I'm pretty sure you don't. The quality education is directly attributed to the quality of teacher you put in the classroom. When I can make more money at 7-Eleven than as a teacher, I'm probably not going to teach, because it's a very difficult job in the day and age we live in. You deal with a lot of different things. We're in a society where nobody likes no. So you have to have a thick skin, and teachers, before, when they were paid fairly decent, at one time we were about 38th in the nation. We had teachers take a little bit more and were able to come to work and say this is worth doing this. But at $41,000, no, we train people here in CATS that we send out. Most of the kids that leave here make more than $41,000 when they graduate. So, but again, as a state, we're darn proud to say that we're want to be, again, the lowest paid in the nation. We have not funded education. In the last 16 years, education, at one time we were getting a boost, but then COVID come along. Everybody else got 15, 20, 30% increases. We got, you just heard it, we got 2.7% increase. So I can put that in perspective. You don't even have to know Common Core math. This is pretty simple. So every year, the cost of living for our employees, the state is not required to pay for maintenance workers, custodians, and anybody that keeps up buildings. The county is responsible to build schools and to maintain them. Well, that requires human beings. So when the state goes up 4.5%, 5%, and we get 2.7, you can do the math. We get behind every year, so we just get further and further behind. And since about 92% of our expenditures are salaries, then what happens is we cut TAs, we cut teaching positions, we cut central office, and there's just nowhere else to cut. So we have cut for 5 years our budget substantially, while other people, when there's the taxes come in, everything else, all you hear is other people adding to their payrolls. Ours keeps going down. We were at $320 million last year, so we're down $30 or $40 million.
Is the answer to this is hoping our grades go down so we'll get more funding? Because that is not a choice.
Federal funding federal funding has become so, and I've heard this argument, don't take federal funds. For the state, it's about $1.68 trillion. So I can do that number for you if you want to pay for it locally. It's about $2.50 a hundred for your taxes. I'm pretty sure you're glad to have federal funding in state. So we couldn't afford to finance our education system at the current rate locally. But it just comes down to the state's constitutional obligation is to fund public education. It's in our Constitution. Public. Didn't say anything else. Public. So, again, in our state, if we're going to give money to someone else, it always comes off our budget. It's never a win-win. The lottery, everybody asks me about the lottery. That's one of the funniest jokes. There'll be a comedian show on the lottery, North Carolina lottery. So basically, the lottery come along and the politicians said, there's X millions of dollars. We'll just take that out of what we're currently funding education, and we'll do what we want to do with it. And I'm not sure what that is, because I've not seen the results. And we'll supplant it with lottery funds. If they would have put the lottery funds on top of what we were currently getting, we wouldn't be having a conversation about money, because we would have enough. We fund about $12,000 per pupil. Whereas if you look at New York, which is always graded, when there's a national grade of public education, New York always comes in number one. Why? $28,000 per pupil. You get a whole lot different quality individual teaching at $68,000 to $80,000 a year starting pay than you do at 41. And the cost of living is not that much greater unless you live downtown New York. There's also teachers out in rural New York City or New York. So they get the same. So I'm tired of hearing that. No, you can live in New York State. You live in the city, you're going to pay a lot of money no matter where you're at. But we constantly, I think we're just proud of it, our legislators are anyway, just to constantly not fund public education. And at some point, it's going to implode. We are the blue-collar workforce. We put out the majority of students that go into our industries, And if they weren't happy, they wouldn't be expanding. And I meet with those guys monthly, if not weekly, in different boards that I serve on. And they're constantly telling me how happy they are with the quality of students we put out. So it's frustrating to us to know what will work, but yet not get funded to do it. And we'd rather pay millions of dollars to remediate students instead of teaching them how to read to start with. The amount of money we spend after third grade to try to close the gap is astronomical. So it'd be nice to have the money to invest, and that's called universal pre-K. If we can get every child into a quality pre-K class, we will drastically close the reading gap. And on the other end, it will save us millions of taxpayer dollars. So it's sort of like the old Fram commercial, invest in a $7 oil filter or a $15,000 engine later. So evidently, we keep banking on investing in the engine at some point, but it's just crazy. But it's aggravating to us as educators, and I think that's why we've seen the largest exodus of educators in the history of North Carolina last year. And I think we're probably going to see it again this year because people are just tired of being last on everything, and the public opinion is public education is enemy number one. It's a little hard to go to work for $41,000 a year and be the enemy. So we're not esteemed anymore. So I go and talk to students, and the heartbreaking issue is I walked into a classroom 15 years ago and asked 200 students who wants to be a teacher. 90% of the kids raise their hand. I walk into 1,000 students today, and I might get one hand. The comment is, why would we want to do that for $41,000? Really? So we've got to change the attitude in this state, or at some point it's going to impact us economically because we're not going to have the workforce.
Let me ask at this point, I have two definitions. Is this the budget or is this the budget resolution? Is there a difference? Am I working on two different definitions? What are we being, we're not.
No, this is
the budget resolution, right? Which means we're going to operate on this budget.
That's what you approve.
Yeah, we're going to operate on this budget until we really get a budget after we've gotten all the figures from the state, correct? Is that a yes?
No.
No.
The budget resolution is the budget.
That is the budget at this time. Yeah, we're going to operate on this until we know what that is. Is that correct? That's the resolution. So we're not really voting on the budget.
The only thing we are adjusting is anytime we get new money. So the budget resolution, you approve a budget at the 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 level. Purpose code.
So I think the answer is yes. The state's not going to come back and give us a windfall of additional money.
No.
And then this is the budget, and there may be some additions or subtractions. And for the general public, the state has done reversions in the past. Hasn't happened in a while. What does that mean to the general public? If we were given $267 million tonight, $267 million in February or March, if the state's not faring well, they can actually let Adam and I know that they're going to revert money. What does that mean? They may say, hey, we need $10 million back. Mm-hmm. Then we send it back to the state. So that happens to us. It used to happen more frequently than not. It has been better in recent years, but that's always a possibility.
Well, I like the idea too of, I think there was a prophecy somewhere back there when we presented a budget that asked for, 14%? And somebody said, we'll probably get 2.3%.
Yeah, 2.7, I think so.
2.7. That's
We
not.
have some in reserve.
Yeah, we hope so. But those are funny two numbers to me, that's the asking when so many counties are asking and getting. This county asks and it just gets pushed aside. And like you say, it shows up somewhere else, but it doesn't show up here. That's disconcerting. And by the way, that's only been going on for at least 20 years.
Well, there is as I always say, and I've lived here, born and raised here, so I appreciate low taxes, but there's always a cost to everything in life. So one of the costs is the state will say, and of course I've heard this 3 times in the last year, the state looks at what the county can raise if it raises taxes a penny. So if we raise taxes a penny and it nets over $1 million or $2 million, the chances of getting additional funding from the state just about becomes zero. So, right. So what happens to us is there's some additional pots of money if we were closer to the average tax on property, which is about 63 cents. The closer you are to that, or if you meet it or exceed it, you actually become eligible for an additional couple pots of money. So we lose somewhere between $1,300 and $1,700 per student because of our low tax rate. And I'm not advocating for taxes, so don't go out and post it all over the internet. I love low taxes, just telling you there's a cost to everything in life.
I would like to piggyback on what you said, Mr. Sloan. This school system offers things that much richer school systems do not. And I'll give you an example without getting into a long explanation, but we got an SRO in every school. I don't know but another school system in the state that has that. And that costs money. So we feel like the safety of our children is important. And we also have nurses, more than most. We also have counselors, more than most. What we're trying to do is help children, and we feel like that's our job. That's what this board's always done. Dr.
Mr. Steele, I have a question for you, and going through the numbers and stuff, we're using fund balance pretty, I won't use the word generously, but we're using it this year pretty good. Based on projections, based on what you see going forward, is this worrisome for you going forward? The rate at which we're drawing down fund balance, let me be a little more specific.
Yes, I mean, as the CFO, I mean, I would rather not use fund balance. I like break even. So that's why on a weekly, I try to communicate that in executive cabinet, in our admin meetings with principals. They reduce spending where we can, so we don't have to cut jobs because we want to protect the classroom as much as possible. It is concerning. We knew this district knew with ESSER, that's why they built up fund balance. I think you've heard Dr. James say that before. They built up fund balance in anticipation of this, but we know that's why we're gradually having to make cuts. We'll for sure have to look at reducing some things next year as well.
And of course, not saying anything negative about the prior board. Had we had the crystal ball today, we probably shouldn't have drawn $4 million out of fund balance and done capital projects. But again, some of those projects were 10 and 12 years old. So we did move $4 million out of general fund, which would have probably gave us 2 additional years to draw down. But the biggest quagmire that's hit us really hard and across the state is special needs students. We get the regular ADM, which is $8,788, and we get an additional $4,300 from the state for a special needs student. But what we're seeing, and as a matter of fact, first time ever, our NC, or not NC pre-K, but our special needs pre-K, we were able to offer services typically most of the day, and we are getting such an influx of students that have special needs. We're going to have to give students, we're going to set up a schedule where students get either morning services or afternoon. And that typically starts when a student is 3 years old, to try to early identify, because the quicker we can get them in, the more results we see at the end when we're trying to help close those gaps of special need. But we're having more significant special needs students show up because of pharmaceutical drug abuse, illegal drug abuse. So the numbers out there, about 2 out of every 5 live births have some impact from drug abuse, whether it be cognitively and or physically. So I will tell you that our federal government, when IDA was put into law in 1969, the federal government said they would fund it at 45%. The highest we've got to is 16%. Those students are not funded on need, it's funded on ADM. And what we keep telling the state is we're in a different world now. We need to fund it on the physical need of the student. If we have a special needs student that's $30,000 to meet the needs, then that's what we are to be funded, not $14,000. So that has drastically hit us on our budget. I don't think we've seen it hitting us that hard, but it has. So we're constantly trying to catch up with that budget, but while again paying only $41,000, special needs teachers are a different group because you're going to get hit, slapped, pinched, and a lot of other things. And that's just not because the kids are bad. It's just if you're nonverbal, you're going to tell somebody that your head's hurting or something. You got to learn different communication skills. So those teachers really face additional issues in the classroom, and what we're seeing at $41,000, nobody wants to be a special need teacher. Across the state, it's one of the biggest openings we have.
Yeah, and the last question I have for you, Mr. Steele, is about employee child care, which I think is a great program we do, and it helps us retain our teachers. It's really good, but it's running a deficit. I assume, and you had one of the footnotes for that was, you're going to need to watch this close to see where we end up. Do you foresee that, is your thoughts on this going forward, is that you can reduce the negative and get it closer to break even by the end of the year, or going forward to the next budget?
That's one I'm not positive on. Dr. James may want to speak to that. That's the one.
Yes, so.
Said we're going to have to increase the number of kids.
Or cut it.
In that program, or that program has.
But it's not just our employees, so.
That is a civil way to say it.
It's not just our employees, so we've opened it up to the general public. So it's $750, but here's the problem. We are state certified. The next hurdle is to being STAR certified. So we're working on being STAR certified, and what that means to the general public. For subsidy to pay for your child care, we have to have at least a STAR rating of 3. We don't get full reimbursement unless we're STAR rating of 4 or 5. So that takes time. It does not happen overnight. So unfortunately, if we can't find other people to take those slots, then we're going to probably have to bring it to the board to collapse it. And that's then no longer a recruiting tool. That keeps some of our teachers out of schools because they have childcare, and they pay for it, $750 a month.
I just think it's a great program, and it's providing kids help work that program, and it's just good from both sides. It's a win-win, and I would hope to see it closer into a null from a cash drain, and because it's tough right now, and I really hope marketing, whatever it takes, I really want to keep that if we can.
Okay. Unless there's a pressing question, we really do need to move on. Does any board member have something they just have to have tonight? Okay. Ms. Parker?
We read these already. I read them last week.
Good evening, Chairman, Dr. James, members of the board. Tonight I bring, again, it's first reading of these different policies. The first one is Policy 3220, the Technology and the Educational Program Policy. Do you have any questions about that one?
Any board member have a question about that one? This is the first reading, so there'll be no voting on this. Okay, let's go ahead. Move on.
Okay, the next policy is 4312/7320, which is the Technology Responsible Use Policy.
Questions? Okay, let's move on.
And the last one I have is 5071/7351, the Electronically Stored Information Retention.
Questions on that one? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
They'll sit for 30 days. Ms. Savage? These are also first readings.
Good evening. I do have policy 42407312, which is the child abuse and related threats to child safety. This one just revised the language as we discussed last week, and it provides additional language in the general statute as we are mandatory reporters. And so if employee is terminated as a result of not reporting, then we are responsible for reporting that to the State Board of Education so they can't be employed across the state of North Carolina.
Board member, any questions? Sure.
Does that connect with other states, or is that just our state?
That would be an Ashley question.
It's just a North Carolina law. I'm sure other states have similar laws, but they'd be identical or maybe not.
My question is, could a South Carolina teacher show up in North Carolina and us not know about their record there?
No.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Savage, go ahead.
All right, the second policy is a brand-new policy, and it's the emergency administration of naloxone, which is our Narcan. I did make the correction that Mr. Coopernet suggested as it relates to opioid poisoning instead of overdose. And that should be noted in the policy that was emailed this week. And so that's the only change that was made based on the discussion from last week.
And then once we do, this will set for 30 days. Once we do approve it, then the training will start for those persons gonna.
Yes, we'll put a plan in place for each school to identify staff members. We'll have training for their staff members, and we'll work with the Drug and Alcohol Coalition of Iredell to get Narcan in our school buildings.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions about that one? Okay, go on to 6125.
The very last one is administering medicines to students, and this one just is a quick update because the division name, the North Carolina Department of Human Health and Human Services, the name changed of the division, so that's the only change with that policy.
Okay, any questions about that one? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Ribbick, Ms. Cooper, school improvement.
Good evening, Chairman Howell, members of the board, Dr. James. Last week at the Committee of the Whole, we presented that schools have completed their school improvement plans, and they have been uploaded to the website, and we'll be asking for a vote to approve the plans at next month's board meeting. And this is a first reading. And just here, if there's any questions, and we did ask that if you have any comments or any concerns with any of the plans for elementary, please reach out to myself. Secondary, please reach out to Ms. Cooper. And if there's anything we have this evening.
Any questions tonight from board?
How do you rate the plans that you've looked at?
Very highly. I know the time they've taken to complete them, and they also go through a process where we look at their first draft, give them input, feedback, and they take that and make improvements as they go. So there's a complete process that they go through, and I think this year's been the best plans that I've seen.
Well, and we even stepped up our process a little bit this year. After we gave feedback, we asked the schools to meet with us if they had significant feedback to talk about how they had taken that feedback into consideration and changed their plans. So we've done just a little bit more on that.
Any other questions?
Do you review last year's plans and the status of those and the action items and so forth?
Yes.
Do you do that at the end of the school year, or do you do that in the formulation of this year's plans? When do you do that?
We do it monthly. We look at their plans to see, are they keeping up with the steps? Are they completing the steps? And are they having their required, they're supposed to be meeting twice a month with their leadership to review the plan themselves and to look at the steps to make sure they're being completed. So we do not wait to see if they're doing it till the end of the year. We look at them monthly to make sure their teams are completing the action steps as written.
And we'll actually be reporting out tomorrow in our end-of-year review with our principals. We've been tracking monthly. We have a monthly sheet where we're looking to see, do you have your required meetings? Do you have any action steps that are out of date? And we're reporting that. We actually have kind of a house competition we're doing this year with our schools. And so they get points for making sure that they have everything up to date and that everything's complete.
These plans are on the webpage, and it's up for your review. Reach out if you have something, and let them know before the next board meeting if there's an issue with any of the plans, so that let them get involved in it, because we will be asked to approve those plans next month. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shingarrick.
Mr. Shinkarek.
Good evening, Board. Last week, I presented the approval or asking a request for approval for the roof at Harmony Elementary. You can see the picture up here. It's that everything that's covered in white would be replaced. I know there was a question earlier in the meeting about where we're at with this project. There's a few things that we're working with the architect Pinnacle and DPI on some approval there with the project. Not anticipating that to be any issue, but just kind of working through some of those things. And then once that's completed, we should have a pre-construction meeting and be able to get things started. This project here is one that we thought we would do in conjunction with mechanical work that's going to go on that roof. And the low bid was with Ballard Roofing. It's a company that we've used before, and it's a 20-year, two-year on the craftsmanship, 20-year warranty on the product. So I'll take any questions on that.
Okay, we did discuss this last Monday considerably. Is there any additional questions?
At which school is this being done?
Harmony Elementary.
Thank
you. Mr. Kelly.
Any other questions? Okay, this is a voting item. I need a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Thank you very much.
All right, next up, the other school most commonly discussed, Weathers Creek High School. As we explained last week, we've updated the scope of the project to match the county's funding of $130 million. It's essentially what we've referred to as Phase 1A and the second part of that, which includes the rough grading on the areas by the athletic field. So Monteith's presented this to us, believe that we can work within that $130 million budget. I was also asked, I believe, by Mr. Kubinek on to break down the costs associated with the project. So I've provided that for you in the memo. It's about $114 million in construction costs. If you do the math there, 3% for contingency, it's about $3.4 million. In total, we'll assume about $7 million in design fees, $550,000 in special inspections, and then FF&E is our remaining balance there. So what we try to do is really trim up everything in those first few items, and then anything that we had left there was money that we'll put into the FF&E. And I'll tell you, it's a tight budget. It's going to take some work there, but it's something that we feel like we can do. Dr. James and I and others have discussed at length about ideas for funding to kind of work with FF&E and these other things to make this done. We want to put a shovel in the ground. And so we present this to you for your approval.
Okay, we did extensively discuss this. It is what it is. The commissioner said this is all you're going to get, and the company was nice enough to break it down, come off of their original price, and at least we'll be able to break ground and get a school started. Is there any further questions anyone has or comments?
Make a motion, we accept the bid so we can move on.
Thank you. Second? Second. Okay, all in favor?
Chairman, I had one question.
Okay, we do have a question. Mr. Kubalik.
How do you assess the risk that you came up with $130 million worth of stuff here, that we may be missing something that you're going to have to come back to the board for and put us in a weird situation when we won't have the money?
Well, I mean, we do have contingency money built into that, so, and we feel good about the contingency money that we have there, about the land, and there's a few things there that, I've talked to the construction company and Scott Hager, our director of construction, about, but we feel good about the contingency there. And like I said, we've discussed other places that we could add funding in different ways. There's tax rebates for these things. We can look at purchasing some of the FF&E through E-rate, which is our technology purchase. So we have some other places that we can go if we get into some of those areas. There's a risk, but I think we've weighed the risks. Feel confident with this plan.
Mr. Sloan, did you have a comment?
Mr. Kubalik has pointed out many times, if you don't have a solution, you shouldn't be coming up with problems. And because of that, I'm going to vote for this, but I feel strongly this is not the way to go. I think it's going to cost us more money, but like I say, I don't have a solution, so I have to vote for it.
Okay. It is, we're sort of between a rock and a hard place. We'd like to fund the entire school, and if it does come up short, then it won't be up to us to come up with the money. We would go back to the commissioners and say, hey, we don't have enough money. And that's all we can do. And that's the way it is. So we can say, we can point fingers and say a lot of things, and that's already been said, and I don't want to get into that. So I do have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Pass 7-0. Thank you. Mr. Sloan.
I'm going to take my time and weigh my words as best I can. I know this is a hot topic. I was planning on postponing vote this afternoon on the display behind me. I had a lot of comments from board members as well as the public, and what I was wanting to do is I've already talked to the design company about making the Constitution a lot easier to read and finding the correct photograph that they could put in to make it more legible is tough. So what I was planning on doing is making the Ten Commandments less legible so they would be the same. I don't think I'll ever make anybody happy, and I've got a lot of time and money invested in this. And I think what I want to do is proceed with the vote tonight. Our board chair expressed full approval at the September meeting. Mr. Kelly seemed to be in full support in last week's meeting, unless there has been some decisions made behind closed doors that should pass 5-2. And if it does pass, I'll still try to get those changes made upon approval of the board. I'll ask for the board board chair, if this comes to a vote, to ask for show of hands, please.
Okay. Any other comments?
I feel the need to respond to that. My land, that was a week ago. Come on, Mr. Sloan. Look at the whole thing. The whole thing.
Okay. Do I have, are you making a motion? I'm making a motion. Okay. I have a motion to approve this. Do I have a second?
I'm concerned about where it is right at this moment. So I would like to just make sure we're clear on what exactly we're voting on, and if it's going to be where we have these other two documents more clearly stated, or that document more blurred and where it's more of an artistic expression instead of, it being readable. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear on what I'm voting on.
yes, ma'am, I'll be willing to make those changes.
Which one? Making it more legible or making it more
Can-
illegible?
Cannot make it more legible, so we're gonna have to make the commandments less legible.
Okay, so we're moving to where the Ten Commandments won't be as, probably the equal amount of legibility as in, for example, the Bill of Rights?
Or less.
Okay. So we're kind of moving to it being a more artistic expression, you would say?
No, ma'am, I won't hide behind artwork.
Okay.
Okay, does that answer your question? Okay. So I have a motion. I'm going to need a second before we could vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I know, Mr. Sloan, you're not going to want me to say this, but I want to make a motion to postpone this item until November's meeting. There are a number of open questions on what you've stated, questions Ms. Kern has asked, and questions that I have too. So if we want to present to the board and present to the public a modified version of this proposal, then I think we should have that in front of us to look at. So I'll make the motion to postpone this item to a November board meeting.
Okay, so I now have two motions. If I didn't get a second on Mr. Sloan's motion, it dies. So I didn't get a second. So now we have Mr. Kubinik's motion to postpone until November. And I need a second for that.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to postpone the vote on this item for change and present that to the board in November. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Or
Yes.
Comment. So I guess from a parliamentary procedure perspective, postponement would bring it back up. So if a vote to postpone, you would be voting to bring it back up on the agenda. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is that correct, parliamentary? So a vote against the postponement would not have it come back on the agenda.
If you voted against postponement, then it would fail.
And then it would just,
It would not be an item again.
so I'm going to say that I'm going to vote against postponement, and here's why. I took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the state of North Carolina. Some of you know during the calendar, even though I think the calendar law is not, I'm not happy with it. I took an oath to uphold it. So that's why I voted for the legal calendar. We were able to luckily not have to go by that. I think it was best for the kids. But this is a legal question here to me. It's not a question of religion. And it can't be. Because if it's a question of religion, it can't be legal at all according to the state of North Carolina. And I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that. So that can't be the basis. It's got to be a historical documents basis. So that's got to be the basis for it. And an equivalency on the historical documents. As presented current form, I really don't think it would correlate with state law because of there's an equivalency of historical documents. And I think that's the changes I think Mr. Kubinik had talked about hopefully making, Mr. Sloan, you had talked about making. But I think even if it correlates with state law, I think we have a much, much bigger worry, and that is federal law. 1980, Stone versus Graham pretty much said it was a Kentucky law that the bottom line was you can't post Second Amendment in schools. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a STEM guy. So I may be wrong, but that's what I've read. We also received legal guidance tonight from Shatley and Campbell. And based on legal guidance, I'm sorry, I like calling it Shatley and Campbell because I think Dean deserves it. I do that on purpose. But based on legal guidance that we got tonight, it pretty much said that the Supreme Court says you can't do it based on the 1980 ruling. So to make, and I'm pretty sure if this passed, either this month or next month, we'd probably have a federal, and we've already got emails from I just got an email earlier from a national organization saying we'd probably hear from them. And that means the only way to get this to pass it would have to go all the way up the legal chain up to the Supreme Court to be considered legal, because currently if you use, steroid-stasis, is that what basically means? You know what I'm trying to say?
Stare decisis.
Thank you very much. It's my mountain coming out. Stare decisis, meaning that if it's already assumed, they don't like to overcome or overturn things that have already assumed as law. And to get it all the way up to the Supreme Court, while I really enjoy and I think we get good work from Shatley and Campbell, I don't want to pay them to take something all the way to the Supreme Court. I just really don't. And that's a lot of legal fees. And we just talked about a budget and the tightness of our budget. We're having to go into fund balance for our local stuff. It's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Highly probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that.
Shatley's not quite that expensive.
Well, we'd have to get somebody else probably on there or teaming with it. It's going to be over time to take it all those hours, take it to that level, to argue to the Supreme Court. 'Cause that's the only way it's going to get passed. You're going to have to overturn something that's already out there considered legal, has legal standing. So I don't want to lose that money that we can use for our nurses, for our counselors, for our teachers we have, for the teacher's aides that really make a big difference, K-3, like you were talking earlier. And because to me, our job isn't to make news or get on national media, it's to do what's best for the kids. Because I think this is going to make news. This will get on national media. If you want to do that, that's fine. It's your business. But I don't think my business and my job is to do that. And if we spend all that money on legal fees, how am I being good stewards of the counties, of the taxpayers' money? Because this will come out of local funds. I like low taxes. It's a lot lower than where I came from. And yeah, low taxes comes with other things. But it means we have a tight budget. And if we're going to have a tight budget, we need to go where we get the biggest bang for our buck. And to me, that's conservative. To me, that's what that's my political view, is I'm very conservative, especially fiscally. But that's conservative, getting the best bang we can for the buck. And that's what we were told. We heard so much from the community saying we need to do that for the high school. Can't build a Taj Mahal. Remember those comments? Yeah. This is a legal Taj Mahal, in my opinion, in many ways. Now, Louisiana's doing it. They're a test case. They're going to probably go before the Supreme Court. They've got their attorney general going forward. Let them do it. And then if Louisiana gets it overturned, good. Then we can bring it back. But I will not be voting to postpone because it goes against federal law. And I'm not going to knowingly break the law.
Okay, do I have a second?
I would like to make a comment, please.
Okay, go ahead.
One of my concerns is I just would like for Sloan to be able to take a time to work on this and present it next week. It still could be a no even then. But in Stone versus Graham, one of the cases that came across this about 10 Commandments being posted in the wall of a public school classroom, it established a 3-part test for determining whether a challenged state statute is permissible under the Establishment Clause of the United States Constitution. One of the things is the statute must have a secular legislative purpose. This image would have just that, especially if Sloan was going to blur out the 10 Commandments, because the whole point is to focus the children on our founding documents and what contributed the founding fathers into creating those documents. B is its principal or primary effect must be one that neither advances nor inhibits religion. Well, if it's illegible, it's not enhancing the religion, it's enhancing the founding fathers' intentions on how they wrote our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. And C, the statute must not foster an excessive government entanglement with religion. With it being blurred as Sloan is intending, it would fulfill that three-part test. So I would like Sloan to have the opportunity to present his image so that we may see it and decide next week based on those three tenements of establishment clause.
Okay.
Point of information, if I'm not mistaken, Campbell Shatley said this was defensible and the funds would come out of our defense account, correct?
Don't remember that. Let me mention here.
Sure.
No, you want to answer?
I can't answer for what Dean said in a previous meeting. I wasn't here.
Point of information, Chairman.
Go ahead, sir.
So he did say it was defensible. That doesn't mean it's winnable. So he would have a defense on the state level, but again, and the trust would have to decide that it would just not be an automatic. If we elect not to follow federal law, then the trust would have to determine if it was going to cover us or not.
Let me mention then at this point, in all this discussion, if I look behind me, I have three things here. I have the section on the Ten Commandments, section on the Bill of Rights, and the section on the Constitution, correct?
Yes.
Nobody's mentioned the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. You could take the Ten Commandments and make them as big as a barn, or you could take the Ten Commandments and make them as small as a window pane, and that's still going to be the bone of contention. I don't care what you put them with or how you put them up there. That question has already been taken to the Supreme Court. Now, I don't know, not an attorney, but once it goes there, that's it, at least for a period of time, and from 1980, that's been it. We have been told categorically, you're fine state, but you're going to lose on the federal level. And that, like Mr. Doctor has said, that's money I don't have. So I don't have a crystal ball. The Supreme Court might turn over and change everything by the end of next week. Good chance, rah. But the way it is right now, we're wasting time and we're wasting money. It's already been decided. That battle has been fought and has been lost. Sorry, I believe in the Ten Commandments. Everybody in this room lives by the Ten Commandments. They're a part of our background, a part of our history, they're part of our country. But some group of idiots decided we couldn't use them or we couldn't display them in the school. That's the law right now.
Okay. Did I get a second to the motion? Okay. So, and Ms. Parliamentarian, if this motion fails to postpone, then the whole thing is going to fail at this time, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right. So Mr. Sloan has asked for a show of hands. Now, the motion is to postpone. All those in favor of postponement, please raise your hand. So that's 3. All those against postponement, please raise your hand. That's 4-3.
Point of information.
Yes, sir.
I am a man that don't like to talk behind people's back, and I don't like for my back to be talked behind, so I'm going to put this out as public information. I believe that our board chair struggles with the truth, and I would like to cast a vote of no confidence.
Thank you very much. How do you handle that, Ms. Parliamentarian?
This is this. Move on.
Move on. Thank you. Okay. We have Mr. Ribbick and Ms. Kelly back. This is parental involvement, and this is a voting item.
Yes, good evening once again. We're here last month. We presented the changes to the policy 1310/2002 parent involvement, and we're asking for a vote this evening on that policy.
Is there any further discussion in this?
Make a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
My own? Excuse me, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mr. Ribbick, in policy 1310, it talks about the parents get sent annually a guide, right? Now, is that guide for the elementary school the same for all schools, the middle, same for all middle, high school, same for all high schools? Is it a unique guide for each type of school? Or is it unique to that school?
Where are you, which part are you referring to? Because I don't know if that's one of the, is that one of the
Well,
changes?
In the body of the policy, I don't know exactly what page, but it talks about annual notifications, and they get a copy of a written guide for student achievement.
Oh, yes, all of them have that, yes, all schools have that.
Is it unique to the school, or is it unique to the type of school?
The type of school.
Okay. I was wondering if we could see a copy of what those are for each type of school. I've never seen one of those student guides. It'd be interesting to see.
Well, each school gives out a parent handbook, which basically is their guide.
The handbook is the guide?
Yes.
Okay, I thought
Yes.
this was,
So it's the handbooks that they provide. Each school has a handbook.
okay.
Any other questions?
Is that readily available to the public, or is that just for parents?
It's online.
Any other questions? All right, it's a voting item, so I do need a motion.
I made a motion that we accept policy 1310-4002.
Thank you. Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Dr. Berry.
Good evening, Chairman Howell, members of the board, Dr. James. I have for you tonight policy 3621, athletic eligibility for internal transfer students, presented this last month, and would be happy to answer any questions for second reading.
Any questions, board?
Would this affect any students that's already at a high school? Would you wouldn't, they would still be grandfathered in, you wouldn't move them because of this policy, correct?
We would not remove anyone who's currently in a school for purposes of this policy. It would only be for transfers moving forward.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, when we talked about this in the first reading, Mr. Shatley did talk about if the board desired, we could have the board could consider a discretionary appeal, because in the language, it says that the athletic committee's appeal or decision is final, right? So, in my opinion, I think decisions made at the district level, and most decisions are appealable by a parent to the board or the superintendent, depending on the issue. And I think that should be true in the state. So I want to propose an amendment to this policy to state